As if we don't already have enough anti-Semitism to deal with right now, radical and outrageous right-wing Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is comparing having to wear a mask in the House of Representatives to the Holocaust. Greene was interviewed by the Christian Broadcasting Network's David Brody on the Real America's Voice TV show. Yes, that's a real channel. That's a real show. Here is what she had to say.
This woman is mentally ill. You know, we can look back in a time in history where people were told to wear a gold star, and they were definitely treated like second-class citizens, so much so that they were put in trains and taken to gas chambers in Nazi Germany. And this is exactly the type of abuse that Nancy Pelosi is talking about. Well, let's talk about the Queen of the House of Hypocrites.
There was no pushback at all from the interviewer, David Brody, there. A mask mandate from mentally ill Nancy Pelosi is like Jews being murdered in the Holocaust, according to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, of course, there's no follow up from the reporter because CBN isn't journalism. It's merely propaganda. And the guy really isn't a reporter. But at the same time, to say nothing is really not an option. This has to be called out when something for the greater good, like vaccination or wearing a mask during a pandemic, is being compared to the genocide of the Jewish people. You have to call it out and say this isn't accurate. And anybody who enables it, in this case, it was David Brody on the Christian Broadcasting Network enabling it, also must be called out. The Nazis didn't order the Jews to do things that kept them safe. That wasn't what went on during the Holocaust. Rules established to protect health are not the same as the systematic extermination of a people. And of course, the greater tragedy is that this woman was elected to be a member of Congress. It's not even clear to me that Marjorie Taylor Greene should have a driver's license. And there's an entire political movement that believes she should be one of the 535 federal lawmakers, 100 senators, 435 in the House, 535 total. There's a movement that thinks in a country of 331 million, one of the 535 leading us at the federal level should be her. That is really, really dangerous. And this is what happens when we either look away or we don't vote or we don't vote in large enough numbers. I got an email from a viewer who believes he understands how people like Marjorie Taylor Greene come to have a following in the first place. And the way he outlined it was, you start with years and years of fear mongering about you know who, right? Years and years of fear mongering about Democrats and minorities taking advantage of welfare programs, brown people coming here illegally and stealing your jobs and committing crimes, all of that fear mongering that you know of. You combine it with sensationalist propaganda news media, Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, Christian Broadcasting Network. And then you have underfunded education, parents who don't know anything about media literacy, so they can't teach their kids. So the kids have no place to learn it. And then you direct at the self-centered sort of upper middle class suburbanites like Greene. You direct the propaganda at them, absent the education that they need. They become deranged. They become obsessed with protecting their own status that's being threatened by, Democrats, non-existent socialists, minorities, immigrants, poor people, etc. They identify them as the enemies. And then in a country of 331 million people, imagine, this is who ends up getting elected as one of 435 members of the House, one of 535 members of the House and Senate. It is a vile and disgusting analogy that she makes. She is a vile woman. And I know that sometimes the term mentally ill is used in jest or as a slur. But there are more and more members of Congress referring to Marjorie Taylor Greene as sick or mentally ill, including AOC, who actually said, quote, "This is a woman that's deeply unwell and clearly needs help." It seems obvious that that's the case. Some people saw what AOC said and they said, oh, that's bad. AOC is stigmatizing and making fun of mental illness. I don't see that at all. At a certain point, we have to be able to say, this is not just an ignorant person with disgusting political views. These are ignorant political views that have been weaponized by some kind of mental illness. And you have enough people in this country who either don't realize that this is an unwell woman or they don't care. I don't know. It has to be okay to propose that there is a mental illness component when it's so obviously what's going on. But at the same time, the mental illness component doesn't excuse the political beliefs. It's a double-edged sword. Calling something mental illness when it isn't a good thing to do. At the same time, excusing bad acts because the person seems sick or unwell, we also can't be doing that. It is a complicated issue, particularly in a country where many don't have access to proper mental health services or diagnostic services, and when it's heavily stigmatized, and when, quite frankly, I mean, listen, I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying this. There are lots of political beliefs, some on the left, but overwhelmingly on the right, that are delusional beliefs in the literal sense. And so when you see that, it actually can be difficult to distinguish just delusional political beliefs versus someone who is diagnosable. I think with Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's probably both. And that is increasingly what we're hearing from people who know her and who have been targeted and by her, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Let me know your thoughts, but a disgusting analogy and comparison there.